that's not a natural way that water wants to be. You know, streams are typically very curvy and bumpy and swirling, and that I think that makes life in the water. I know Victor talked about living water as opposed to dead water, and
Yep.
living water had certain qualities about it, and pretty much what we use in modern world here is pretty dead water. It's sitting in reservoirs out in the sun and with pollutants and toxins, and so I definitely know and I can speak right now from experience that there's definitely a difference between the same water that's treated in a different way. So, and I can measure it with a pH meter. So it's really quite fascinating on that. So I don't know, you might want to add to that.
No, I think that's great. You covered it well. Yeah, that's fantastic. Live water is definitely wonderful, and
Well, right.
it is produced by the right kind of spinning actions, emotions, and the right kind of. What happens is water is extremely absorbent for dominant energy. It's like a sponge, and dominant energy is healthy if it's not polluted. And the polar of the dominant energy is self-cleaning, which is the most abundant in nature, probably, is the polar. It's self-cleaning, so yeah, you can get that in your water. You can, and there's a number of ways to do that. There's been different pyramid shapes which collect dominant energy, with pipes running through them, spiraling up to the point, and so on. And Fabergé also showed some funnel systems, with the horn, the right shape of the horn, and so on. All these things are very useful. And probably the brother that made that device incorporated some of that into that device. Am I right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. And one of the things that stuck in my head reading about Victor is he studied nature in the forest apparently, and one of the things he's known for very early on was he was able to get water to flow through flumes and float logs uphill. So he could actually, because they would fall timbers and they needed some way to move them, and he could actually build flumes that actually went uphill and hauled the logs up that way.
That's awesome. And, I've read that, so that's like an anti-gravity thing that happens when you get everything right. And I've also read and talked to people that study dolphins, and they say dolphins are more intelligent than people, most of the people that study them. An average dolphin speaks 5 dolphin languages, and an average person only speaks 1 or 2
Right.
human language. And also, dolphins are capable of making bubbles that go down, that sink, and they sink 20, 30 feet before they lose this property. They blow big bubbles and they'll go down 20, 30 feet down. And, air bubbles shouldn't go down. Air
That's
bubbles should
right.
go up.
Well, that's showing you something right there. What's up with that?
Yeah, they've got some pretty advanced techniques and knowledge of their own, and they're like I say, most people that study them say they're more intelligent than humans. So that tells you something right there, that we've got at least 2 intelligent races on this planet, and humans are just one of them, and humans are the lesser of the 2. We got a lot of questions, so I guess we'll go on. We may not get to cover everybody's questions tonight, but thank you for your question. We'll save them for the show for next week. Brother Lidke is making a comment, I believe. It says, Randy's question is the same as asked you earlier this week, I think. You said, among other things, that the devil or the dark side is lying to you, lying to me, and I'm believing it. Sometimes you don't feel saved, but you still are. Yes, that's a good point, Brother Lidke. Thank you for making that. Sometimes you don't feel like you're in service to the Lord, but you still are, because we're not led by what you feel like. We're led by the Spirit of God. And the Spirit of God doesn't, your emotions are different than what God's speaking in your heart. And that's where people often get affected from the outside in. Somebody else will be negative or yelling or whatever, and that'll affect them from the outside in. That's not God. God comes from the inside out. He comes from joy and that love and that peace that comes from bubbling way down inside, and it comes its way out, works its way out. And so that sometimes you got to get spirit-centered instead of being world-centered or surrounding-centered. And that'll help you a lot. He says, Brother Lidke recommends stopping, if he's down or depressed, I guess is what he's saying. He stops eating for a while until he feels better, and then he starts eating like raw carrots, raw apples, and drink healthy water, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all good. Thank you, Brother Lidke, for that input. And I'm believing that'll bless Brother Andy and anybody else that has issues like that. So thank you. Let's go on to the next. I've got an email that this brother I should answer, and it's Brother MJ, who's a wonderful brother over in Europe. And let me pull up his question. Oh, yeah, he asked. We talked about wormholes the other week, and we talked about how there's two counter-rotating discs, one in front of the other, rotating opposite directions. And he asked what's between the two discs, is what his question was. And so the answer to that is air is between the two discs. So that's. I just wanted to answer that. And if you have more questions, feel free to ask more. I'll be happy to answer.
Let me interject in there a little bit. Greg found a picture that was taken that appears to be a legitimate picture that was taken on board that ship that they were trying out the Philadelphia experiment. And there's a picture of this strange disc-shaped. It sounds exactly like what you were describing of a wormhole out in front of the ship, and these Navy men are standing around. It's on an old black and white thing, and it looked like a picture that was taped up on somebody's bulletin board, but it looks remarkably real because there's this circular. It's almost like a circular ring, and it's got you might say flames or kind of a aura, shooting out from the surrounding area, and it looks really weird. And I can't imagine what it'd be like.
It may be something clipped. They did videotape the whole Philadelphia experiment. I say the whole experiment from the shore. They videotape everything, all the point where it went totally invisible, disappeared. And even they had kept the thing running, and then they didn't know what happened because after 20 or so minutes they had turned it off because they thought, well, the ship disappeared somewhere, something happened, it all evaporated or something. Well, then it reappeared, and so you didn't get to see it reappear, you got to see them turn the camera back on.
This is definitely a still shot, and there's an accompanying shot that looks like it's from an airplane. It's like a series of 2 or 3. And there are, I think, like 3 ships sort of paralleling, sort of driving out to in the ocean. And the one in the center, on the last shot, you see the wake, but you don't see any ship there anymore. And
I think that was a subsequent experiment, not in other words, it happened later. I know that video, I know that picture you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure that's a subsequent experiment. Eventually, they perfected optical visibility and radar invisibility, and they're using it now on ships and tanks both. And of course, on tanks and ships, you're going to still see the wake on a ship, and still going to see the tracks on the tank. But you're not going to see it's pretty good camouflage, you know what I mean? You don't see anything else, so it's awesome technology, and they have kept working on it ever since World War II. And of course, these people have billions and trillions to pour into this stuff, so it's So then, anyway, let's go on to the next question. Yeah, it's awesome. I would like to see those pictures when he gets time.
I'll try to get Greg to get them to you.
Yeah, and next week I'd like to put up some pictures on the show, so we'll talk after the show, but remind me on that. Let's see. Next question, Brother Lidke. This is a comment, I guess, or a question. Have you heard of air purifying study that said basically that a fan does a better overall job of cleaning the air than most ionizers just because the air is moving? And I wouldn't be surprised if that's correct. Moving air is definitely healthier than stagnant or stale air. And matter of fact, there's been a number of buildings that I've lived in where I keep a small fan, just a small one, one of those that don't even consume a watt, running all the time in almost every room just because of that. It definitely improves the air quality quite a bit. So thank you, Brother Lidke, for that thought, and I think it'll help a lot of people that are listening. Next question, have you done any studies that prove or disprove Victor's work with respects to water purification? Yeah, we've done a number of experiments that prove Victor is definitely on the right track, and he's definitely a man of God, and he definitely had some wisdom, and so on. Yeah, so that's the answer to that. This is Brother John John Soul from San Clemente, California, and thank you for the question. It says, the gift that helps to get better gas mileage, is it a hydrogen on demand or some other kind of technology? Without revealing too much, can you explain generally what it does and how it works? Yeah, it's some people call it a fuel ionizer. It basically goes around the fuel line, and as the fuel passes through it, it energizes the fuel. Not regular ions, but more like dominant energy, and so therefore it breaks down easier when it gets into the combustion chamber, and therefore you get more power, or if you drive easier, you get more mileage, you get better mileage, and that's the way that works.
Yeah,
And go ahead.
I did when I was up there visiting one time. I think you showed me one of those. They're that little curly Q looking little thing, and you kind of related it similar to a quantum, one of the little Queet quantum strips. They work similarly principle as that on the fuel line.
Yeah. Basically, the quantum, the Queet, the quantum enhancement technology, they're both the same technology. Anything you put that in contact with, it tends to increase the energy level in that thing. And we've proven over and over again for healing and so on. You put it on pain and the energy starts flowing, and you can even register heat and so on, more energy than what was there before. And that's easy to prove, and shows up on different kinds of meters, including thermal meters and so on. And it also shows up on different